All right, super. Well, I'm seeing that people are already writing in the chat, so a very warm welcome to all of you. I see Italy, Germany, probably loads of other places as well, Morocco, Spain, Turkey, goodness. Welcome everyone, feel very happy that all of you from around the world are joining this call. And today we're going to speak about Aspire Women's Workshop 2021. If you have heard of this and are finalizing your application, but you just want to know a few more things, this is the right place. If you've never heard of Aspire and you may or may not want to join, this is also the perfect call for you. So again, thanks for joining. If we go to the next slide, I'll just briefly mention what we plan to speak about. So as I said, we'll introduce ourselves and the team will do the same. And then we'll also give a quick overview of what Aspire is. That will be followed by a panel discussion with 3 very important and special guests. And then hopefully by that point, we've fully convinced you to apply for this awesome workshop, in which case I'll explain a little bit about how to apply, what the sort of dates and deadlines are. And then we will save some time for a Q&A at the end. So hopefully this is going to be a very interactive session, as I said, so please feel free to write your questions in the chat. I will just preface this by saying that Renat, who will introduce herself in a moment, will be monitoring the chat. If you have a question that's specifically for me or one of the panelists or another colleague, please just mention please ask Clara this question, for example. And you can also ask Renat directly using the direct message function in the chat if you'd like your question to be read out anonymously. All right, so you're going to meet quite a few of my colleagues and friends today. I will keep it very short from my side because I will be interviewing the panelists later and you'll get to know me a bit then. But well, I'm Clara. I've already chatted to a bunch of you over email, so seeing some familiar faces. I'm a diversity and inclusion senior coordinator at BCG and I'm based in the Amsterdam office. Wies, can I ask you to introduce yourself now, please?
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Wies. I'm working now more than 7 years at BCG. I started in the local Amsterdam recruiting team. And after a short time in Johannesburg, I joined our regional recruiting team together with Clara. So I'm working and focusing on diversity and inclusion, recruiting initiatives across the regions in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and South America. And actually today live from Copenhagen, where there's the Global Pride Week, and BCG is a proud sponsor there for the Pride Week. So we're actually supporting here other recruiting events focusing on LGBTQI+. And I'm really excited for this webinar and really looking forward to hear your questions and also listen to the panel. So welcome again. Clara, you're on mute.
I mean, in 2021, it's not acceptable. Sorry, everyone. Renat, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Renat. As you can see, I've been at BCG since 2015, took a little break in between. I started off as a local recruiter at the Tel Aviv office and have recently relocated to lovely Amsterdam and am now working on the regional recruiting team. And I am part of the team that does amazing projects like Aspire. I'm really happy to be here. I'll be manning the chat, as Clara mentioned, so feel free to send me your questions, and I'll probably aggregate them if they're similar ones, and we'll hopefully answer all of them at the Q&A portion at the end.
Super, thank you. Catalina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catalina Salcedo, and I'm a visiting associate from the Bogota office. I studied business administration here in Bogota, and last January I joined BCG, and I'm very happy to be here with you, and hopefully we're gonna share a lovely time today.
Great, thanks. Teresa.
Hi everyone, Teresa here from the Zurich office. I have a background in chemistry and a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences, so I'm happy to be also sharing a bit of this angle as well. And I'm excited to hear questions and also get to a very interesting panel discussion.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Yam.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Yam. I'm from the Tel Aviv office. I've joined BCG on March. Prior to that, I worked as a data analyst at the Prime Minister office. I have MBA at Tel Aviv University and psychology and business administration with a focus on data science. And I'm really happy to join this session and hope it will be very helpful for you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So as I said, I would speak a little bit about what the Aspire Women's Workshop is. So I'll give you a brief overview, but there's also a lot more office-specific information on our website. But just to start off, basically, Aspire is for any person, basically, who self-identifies as a woman and who are also students. So when I say students, I mean undergrad, master's, PhD students, basically no extensive full-time work experience. And of course, any study backgrounds are welcome. You'll hear a little bit about the diverse backgrounds of our panelists, but we're not looking for one specific degree necessarily. And as I mentioned in the beginning, if you are 100% sure that consulting and BCG is for you, this event is still very helpful, and you get to expand your BCG network and learn a bit about what we do. But it's also for people, and you'll hear this in the panel, that are maybe not so sure about consulting and if it's really for them, given their academic background or whatever. And then indeed, this is the perfect event because we give you a little taste of what it's like to be a consultant. So in that case, this event might tick all the right boxes for you. I wanted to just explain a little bit about what our workshop will be like. So it's actually a 4-day virtual workshop. It will be an exciting mix of keynotes, masterclasses, case workshops, and more. And it will take place from about 2 to 6:30 p.m. Central European time each day for 4 days, which is the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st of October this year. While it is a fully virtual event, some offices and regions may allow the opportunity to meet up with some of the candidates, some of the attendees in that same office. So for example, if you're based in London, you may get the opportunity to go into the London office, for example. However, please know that this will absolutely not impact your experience of the workshop negatively if you are not able to meet up in person. And we'll only be doing this on an opt-in basis. So if you are comfortable going in, and if there's if it's possible for you to go in, basically. But of course, the rules are changing all of the time, so we can't really say right now which offices specifically will be open. But this is something that we'll be considering with all of the attendees as you are selected. We will also be giving you the opportunity to experience this event through a state-of-the-art virtual world. I will save this here. I'll pause here because we've got a video to show you in a few minutes, which will go into a little bit more detail. But yeah, it's something that our team's been working really hard on, and we're really excited to show you a little bit about what this could look like. But I think most importantly, you get the opportunity to connect with over 120 talented women and BCGers from around the world. So people like Catalina and Yam and Teresa, but also very senior partners and managing directors, etc. And as I already mentioned, it's a good opportunity for you to get a taste of what it's like to be a consultant at BCG and to develop your own personal and professional skills. So I think we can go to the video now. Thanks, Bees. I hope that gives you all a sneak peek into what this really fun and virtual world could look like. But I think let's dive into the panel now, because I'm really excited for you to meet these three ladies properly. I'll give a quick introduction, a more in-depth introduction to myself, and then we'll dive right in. So as I mentioned, I'm Clara. I work in the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion recruiting team for BCG. This is a regional team, as Renat mentioned. And when I say regional, I mean that we basically cover Europe, Africa, Middle East and South America. You can probably hear by my accent that I'm not Dutch. I'm actually South African. And I started off in the Johannesburg office about 4.5 years ago. And I relocated to Amsterdam 2 years ago to join this wonderful team. One of the events that our team organizes is Aspire, of course. So I actually met Jan, Catalina and Teresa at Aspire 2020. And we invited these three ladies to join us today so that they could give you a glimpse into what the workshop is really like. But during this panel, we'll be covering all things Aspire, of course, but also how and why they ended up at BCG, and we'll be briefly touching on their case experience as well. I hope we're going to answer all of your questions in this panel, but as I mentioned, we will be having a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, so feel free to hold on to your questions or write them in the chat. Without further ado, I think Jan, Catalina and Teresa, welcome today. We're so happy to have you here, and thanks for joining us. I will now ask you to please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live, what your background is. And I think, Jan, if you don't mind, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, my name is Jan. I'm from the Tel Aviv office in Israel. I've joined BCG in March. Prior to that, I worked as data analyst at the Prime Minister office, while at the same time I finished an MBA and a BA in psychology and business administration with concentration in data science. Prior to that, I had the chance to work at India. I worked at the Minister of Defense, which was an amazing adventure for me to live in New Delhi, an amazing country in a counterculture. And that's it, basically, and I'm really happy to be part of this panel.
Awesome, thank you. Catalina.
Hi everyone, I'm Catalina Salcedo. As I told you, I'm from the Bogota office. I joined the BCG last January, and I'm very happy here. And well, something about me, I love to bake, I love to play the piano, I love to hang out with my friends, and I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Awesome, thanks Catalina. And Teresa.
Hi everyone again. So as mentioned before, scientist by nature. I'm actually Austrian born Chinese. I joined the Zurich office in March. And a bit about me. So I'm actually, next to my scientific expertise, and actually more of a creative type, like to paint, read, and also like to cook. So actually I was very glad that the Aspire had a cooking session, and also our takeoff had a cooking session. So excited about that.
Yeah, good. I see now that Catalina and Teresa, you must have both loved that cooking session. Last year,
Yeah.
we made a really nice onion tart, if I remember correctly. Thank you so much. I love hearing about the diverse backgrounds at BCG. I told you earlier that I have been here now nearly 5 years, and I've met somebody who's done a master's in witchcraft and English. I've also met people who are super passionate about origami. So I love hearing the diverse backgrounds of my colleagues. But I think let's dive right into the questions here. Yam, I'm going to start with you. Why did you decide to apply to Aspire 2020?
Oh, I like this one. Actually, I participated in a consulting club as part of my study at the university, and I had a chance to hear about this workshop, which when I heard about it, it was in Barcelona, and it was such an amazing workshop, and even just a great opportunity to take this adventure and go for 3 days to Barcelona. So except that, and although it was like virtual, I thought that it's a great opportunity to connect multinational women from all over the world, super talented. I was super passionate about it, and I thought that it can be like a great way to understand, and this is where I want to work, and this is the field that I want to join. And I think that like the Aspire workshop really provide me the answer for all these questions. So the opportunity to meet all such a talented woman, this is the main thing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I think the others probably resonate with that as well. But Catalina and Teresa, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what was really the highlight of Aspire for you, apart from the cooking class, of course.
Well, I think for me, it was getting to know all these amazing, smart and talented women, as Jan was saying, well, from all over the world with different backgrounds. And it was so inspiring to see how much talent and the power we all as women have, you know? So it was a very great experience.
Yeah, I can only second what Katarina said. It was super empowering, like meeting all of your peers, really getting to know them, and then also getting those inspiring talks by the keynote speakers. It was really, it was just a group of really cool women just hanging out and just, discovering themselves. So I thought it was really great.
Wow, very cool. Teresa just mentioned that she really enjoyed connecting with her peers, but Yam, you also mentioned that this event was not in person in the end. It actually was fully virtual because of COVID, of course. But given that it was fully virtual, how did you find the engagement experience? Were you able to engage with other attendees and BCGers?
Sure. So I'll start with telling you that although it was virtual, whatever BCG does, they do it perfect. Like you can't even think about it, was beyond my expectations. So like they even had a chance to like deal with this kind of gap that it's virtual. One of the things that I've done, it's like a coffee chat. We have sometimes to like go virtual and like have some snacks and just doing their girly fast chat. In addition to that, they have some additional fun activities or other workshops that and we had a chance to work in a smaller group and like interact with each other. And in addition to that, there is an application which they have for Aspire, and you had the chance to like see who is the participant, and even if you have another one from your country, you can like have also a face-to-face meeting if the COVID allows that. So I had a chance to do it, and like it was a really easygoing to have a familiar face in the first day.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Yam. Catalina, moving over to you, what do you feel like you learned about BCG from Aspire?
What I learned about BCG from Aspire, I think it was that BCG does care about diversity and inclusion. It doesn't matter where you're from, your religion or background. It's a company that respects everyone, and that literally, I don't know if you heard that iconic BCG phrase, but they unlock the potential of those who advance the world. That's literally, and by constantly supporting and helping you to grow and develop your skills. And I can say that now that I'm part of BCG, I know that's a fact.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad that that came through strongly. That's what we hope for. Then I think this is maybe a question for all of you. What did you take away from Aspire 2020? So what did you leave the event with that you might not have had before? Catalina, maybe we start with you again.
Okay. Well, definitely, I think that I met wonderful friends from all over the world with whom I practice for my interviews during my application process, and with whom I still frequently text them. So even we have some plans maybe to meet each other next year. So if COVID lets us.
Nice, Teresa.
Yeah, well, it's similar for me. I actually met up with one of the girls in Vienna when I was there for a while, and the two girls that actually were from in Switzerland, we actually also still frequently text. So this is actually really nice that these bonds to really last. And the other thing I really took with me is, just as Catalina said before, I really went away from Aspire and had a vision of what type of place it is that I want to work in, what kind of people I want to surround myself with in my day-to-day life, in my work life, because it's a significant amount of time that you spend with these people, right? And this vision of diversity and inclusion, this is something that's really important to me. So that was super important to me, and I really liked what I saw in BCG there.
I must add to that I really agree with all the things that you said, and like I just can tell to finalize that it's after that I knew that this is where I want to work, and this is the firm, and this is the job, and this is the position that I want to be part of.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, ladies. That's really clear. I think I want to switch topics a little bit now and speak a bit about your journey to consulting. So we've spoken a lot about the event. But Teresa, you are now a junior consultant in the Zurich office, and you mentioned that you joined in March 2021. What made you decide that consulting was for you? And from what I gather, you weren't always necessarily set that consulting was for you, because you come from a very science-heavy background. So, yeah, how are you with us today?
All right. I mean, yeah, you basically spoiled my story a little bit already, Clara.
Oh, spoiler alert, sorry.
Because yes, I think many people with a scientific background, they first think, okay, well, I'm going to be a scientist. I mean, that makes sense, right? We study science for a reason. There's something that we're really passionate about. So for me, it was really not clear that I would want to go into consulting. I thought, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said, okay, well, big pharma, obviously, with chemistry, big pharma is the place to be. But I got in touch with consulting during my PhD, and after meeting up with people who are in consulting and also interested in consulting, and also Aspire being really part of it as well, it became really clear to me that this is like a profession where I could see myself long term, and where I could, really develop myself and grow. And I think it was really also Aspire that pushed me over the line, which said, okay, well, I think this is something that's worthwhile. I'm gonna apply and see what the interview process is gonna be like. What are the people that I'm going to meet? And if I like what I see, I'm gonna go for it. And this is exactly what happened. So here I am in the Zurich office.
Yeah, awesome. Catalina, I think you might have a slightly different take, right?
Oh, well, yeah. For me, I always knew I wanted consulting, and because it's a really, really excellent opportunity to constantly learn, challenge yourself, and grow personally and professionally. So I thought it was the perfect opportunity for me to start my professional career.
Yeah, awesome. I think probably most of you on the call will fall into one of those two buckets. Not really sure, need a bit of convincing, or definitely I want to be part of the green team. Catalina, when we spoke the other day, you mentioned that at Aspire you made some friends from around the world who you ended up practicing your case interviews with. Now, just a side note for those who are not super familiar with the consulting interview process, but it's not sort of your typical interview. It's basically you meet up with your interviewer and you have to solve a case together. And of course, there's lots of resources online how to do this. And if you end up in the interview process with BCG, they will, of course, prepare you and help you work towards this. But Catalina, I guess my question is, apart from making these really helpful connections to practice your cases with, how else did Aspire prepare you for the recruitment process? And yeah, maybe you can speak a little bit to the case interview part, because I think people might be curious about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I remember we had a group activity or workshop in which we had to solve a pricing case. I think it was like that.
Yeah, pricing. Indeed.
And yeah, that gave me like an overview of what a consulting case is and what to expect during an interview. I also remembered that I told the BCGers that we're with my team during that activity that I was very, very nervous about the whole recruiting process and the interviews and everything. And they were so nice to me, and they gave me like, they shared with me some tips that worked out for them when they were applying. And they were like, just just enjoy the process. If you're here, it's because you deserve it. Just study hard, and I'm sure you're gonna get the spot. So I really love that opportunity, and that definitely helped me through my process.
Yeah, awesome. I see Yam nodding, so this probably resonates with you as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly what she said. And I think that even preparing for the interview to get in, like after applying for Aspire, it's also something that really helpful to build your story and all the things that you want to tell during the fit interview, which I know Clara will mention later.
Yeah. And Catalina, just a side question. You mentioned that the case was on pricing. Did you know anything about pricing before, or did you learn about it on the day? Did you need to know anything about pricing?
No, I didn't know anything about pricing. But that was not a problem, we were just a team. We discussed it all together, and we managed to solve it. So you don't need to know anything about it, just some basic steps you may follow to solve the case.
Yeah, I think that's a bit like what it's like working at BCG, right? Like
Right.
When you go into consulting, you don't study consulting at university. You don't study social impact cases, solving the water crisis, for example. You don't focus on customer journeys at banks, and you just learn it all on the job. So,
yeah, it's like you never know what you have to do, just you learn it.
Yeah, exactly. Teresa, back to you. I want to ask, how would you describe your time at BCG so far, and what has been the highlights?
So how I've described my time at BCG so far, I guess it's like a really steep learning curve. It's at some point challenging, but it's super invigorating. You work with really, really cool people, and having the right people around you and having the right team is just, it's everything. And I'm actually one of the people who has had probably a couple more teams than others. I mean, I've only been here since March, and I'm already on my 5th case. So it's been, one case after another. And so far, everybody has been super cool, and everybody has the same drive. And in general, like, you're just surrounded by cool people. And I think one thing that I maybe want to add, which kind of also has been a bit of a highlight for me, and this is also perhaps something that will take away the fear of some of the people who have a less business-like background. We had an onboarding for non-business background people. And I think there, just, we learned about corporate finance, and we really also connected, like, all these people that I had this training with, they're in the German and Austrian system. Like, I still write to them, and then when it's always nice when I go to their offices and then bump into them. So I think meeting those people has really been a highlight for me.
Yeah, awesome. That's as I mentioned in the beginning, that we're not looking for a specific background. So, as I said, we have people who are English majors, psychology, engineering. We cannot expect everybody to know exactly the same things, right? So our onboarding and training process has, I like to think that we've perfected it, so that everybody starts off on a very similar playing field. Well, it's very clear that all of you come from very different academic backgrounds. We've heard just psychology, science, business, but also just backgrounds in general. For a start, you're all based on in different countries around the world. So Yam and Teresa, I want to ask you how you feel your background, so academic or otherwise, has contributed to your impact on cases. Yam, maybe we start with you.
Yeah, great. So actually, I have 2 examples for that. The first one will be related to the course that I am staffing at the moment, which is pretty related to, it's finance and data science. And my background, which I focus on data science, really help with the onboarding of the project and understand all the overview and how exactly things work. It gives me another perspective and additional a professional layer that not everyone in the team has. So it allowed me to help them and support them in a better way, and even to explain them things that I'm more familiar than they are. And in addition to that, I studied psychology, which is related to people and connecting to others. So I think that it really helped me to like all the team working aspect and like to create relationship with clients, which is something that virtual it's sometimes a bit harder than usual. So I think that every background can be related to the working as a consultant in BCG due to the fact that it's really very, very, very diverse.
Yeah, true. Thanks. Teresa.
All right. So yeah, I guess we already touched a bit on the scientific background, and I think I've also seen a question in the chat about how my scientific background has influenced my casework. So actually, I've been supporting the healthcare practice quite a lot with my prior knowledge, and this has been really helpful for the teams because so our teams usually are people with mixed backgrounds, right? So each and every person brings in something that will make the case work better. So here it's really about, that you can actually leverage your previous skills and also really bring them into the team and actually create value to the client in this way. So for instance, it's a scientific question, and of course you as scientists are better prepared to actually answer it than business majors. And you can also help them to explain, to help them to understand what it is about, which is really great. But at the same time, this doesn't mean that I'm just confined to helping out in scientific cases. I have a colleague, and he's a medical doctor, and he's been in cases with telecommunications and consumer goods. So staffing doesn't, just because you are a scientist doesn't mean you will always get staffed on scientific cases. So this is something that I really want to stress. If you want to explore something else, you definitely can. And another thing that maybe is a bit relevant here. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that I'm Austrian Chinese, so I actually speak Mandarin. And it's actually surprising that even though I'm in Europe, I was able to actually leverage my Mandarin speaking skills as well and really support my team when we had a global market study, that I could talk to the people in Chinese and really support my team in this way. And at the beginning, actually was a bit scary because having grown up in Europe, I wasn't really sure if this is something that I'm actually equipped to do. But now that I'm actually have been supported and really pushed also to do so, and this is now as something, a skill where I say, okay, well, this is something that I can contribute to the team, and this is something I'm also proud of, right? So you'll really learn a lot, and you will also grow in ways that you didn't even expect that you would grow in, which is super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely be proud that you speak Mandarin. I'm so jealous that you speak not only Mandarin, but just another language. Now, given that you've come from all very different academic backgrounds, I wanted to ask Catalina and Yam, what trainings have you received? So either formal or informal during your time at BCG, and which ones do you feel have been the most impactful for you? Catalina, I think you could give us the perspective of a visiting associate.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've had some very useful trainings, like basic consultant skills. So it's everything about PowerPoint and Excel. And I know here everyone has sometimes used PowerPoint before, but I mean BCG has some very powerful tools that I never seen before. So well, I had to learn, and well, that's amazing because those are the tools I use every single day here in consulting. Another thing pretty useful was that BCG cares about the storyline. So when you want to communicate a message to the audience, you have to do it in a certain way that keep the audience focus on what you're saying, and that they take away those messages, those key messages you want to share with them. So it's important to learn how to create a story to tell the audience. So that's what was another kind of training I had.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a mix of both sort of the hard skills and the softer skills of how to engage people for the hour or two meeting that you have with them. Yeah, interesting.
Maybe I can tell about the additional program that we have at Tel Aviv office. I think it's not only here, as far as I know. And so it's a program that's called Buddy Program, which is basically helping to get up to speed at BCG and understand how exactly it works over there. So it can be related to both professional things and more things that more related to the organizational culture. So when we're talking about the professional aspect, it can be related to soft skills of PowerPoint, Excel, and different quick questions that you have. And you have like a buddy, which is one of the more experienced consultant that is like a kind of your mentor, and you can reach out whenever you need, if it's live session or virtual, whatever you need, text message, WhatsApp, something that is not formal, and you can ask him whatever you want. And on the other aspect, you can even ask him some like a super question that you think that they are very ridiculous, like even what is the case code, or like what we're going to eat for lunch. So he's the person to contact, and it feels really good to have someone like that when you're launching in a new place.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's such a good point, actually, because I remember my first couple months at BCG, and there's sometimes those questions like, yeah, you don't want to ask your manager maybe, but you're sort of like, what do I wear to the office? When, like, how do I get lunch? Or
Exactly.
how do I find this place? Who do I email? Those sort of softer questions, which you can better ask just your friend, your buddy in the office. So that's really cool. Okay, so we've reached the end of the panel discussion, but before I let you all go, I wanted to ask each of you for a quick fire round. Basically, if you could each just give one sentence on what your one piece of advice is that you would give to those considering to apply for Aspire. Catalina, start with you.
Okay, so girls, just go for it, try it. Even if you don't like or don't know anything about consulting, give yourself the opportunity or the chance to try and experience new things and meet incredible women. I promise you won't regret it.
Awesome, I love that one. Teresa.
Yeah, I think also really be open and curious to discover yourself, and don't be afraid to really be yourself in the sessions. Every time a participant actually shared something from themselves, like, it was truly enriching. It's so cool to see who these, you know, incredible women are, and I think that's really a gift.
And I'll super short thing to just go for it. Like, don't hesitate, apply, be encouraged, and do it. You won't regret.
Awesome. Now you've heard from 3 people that you should just go for it. So I hope that you take that advice. Thank you so much, ladies. Really appreciate it. And Jan, Teresa, and Catalina will be here during the Q&A, but I first want to very briefly tell you how you can apply. And I'm seeing some questions come in about the application process. So hopefully I can answer that for you now. The application deadline, most importantly, is coming up this Sunday at midnight CET. So just make sure that if you want to apply, that you apply at least by some point before Sunday night. And then the screening and how you can get accepted into this workshop is basically based on a few things. So your cover letter, your CV, and your transcripts. Your transcripts for the majority of cases basically mean your academic transcripts, right? Whatever, if you're in first year or second year, third, whatever it is, just send those through. And I've put a little asterisk there because actually if you look on the website and you see you want to apply to a specific office, they might be requiring additional transcript or have a language requirement. So you can see all of that on our website. We'll flash up the URL at the end. But just keep in mind that some offices may be requiring high school certificates or something like that. If you don't have it or can't get it before Sunday, please reach out to the recruiting contact that person is linked to the website under the office that you'd be looking to apply to. So you can always reach out and ask them very office specific questions, right? We've got a whole bunch of offices participating, so I don't want to give you the incorrect information, so better just to reach out to them if you're not 100% sure. So as I said, the deadline is this Sunday, but early September, so first week or early the second week, all participants will be announced and you'll find out the outcome of your application. I know that a lot of you have already applied sort of 3 or 4 months ago, so we really thank you for your patience, but it's important to us that we make a fair evaluation based on everyone who has applied. And then, of course, the most important thing, the Aspire event takes place 18, 19, 20, and 21 October. And we will need you to be able to attend the full event. So earlier I said that the days, sessions will fall between 2 p.m. and about 6 p.m. on each of those 4 days. That's Central European time. This is to accommodate the multiple different time zones that we have with everyone joining from around the world. But yeah, I think it's really important that you're able to attend the full event so that you're able to really get all of the benefits from it. And then, well, very exciting, but if you are selected to come to the workshop, you get a guaranteed round 1 interview with your local inviting office. So do keep that in mind. Of course, you don't have to use it straight away, and maybe after Aspire you still only graduate in 1 or 2 years. That's fine, but whenever you do want to apply to us for either an internship or a full-time position, then you have this round 1 interview card, and your recruiters will be able to tell you a little bit more about that. I realize now, because I see a question about a cover letter, so I will just mention here on the cover letter, please don't make this too long or too complicated. Just maximum 1 page is fine, and it should basically just be explaining why you would like to be invited to Aspire, why you think you should be. And please don't simply summarize what's on your resume, but really use this as an opportunity to motivate for why you want to be invited to this workshop, what you hope to learn. And most importantly, if you're applying to an office, I have got Germany for some reason on my head now. If you're applying to one of our German offices, then it will be helpful to the recruiter to see, why Germany? What is your connection with that office or region? Of course, it goes for all of the regions that you're participating in. So really give a think about this. You can only submit 1 application, so multiple applications will not be accepted. So really think hard about what ties you have with a location, and what location or office makes the most sense for you. As I said, some offices will have additional language requirements. Renat, am I leaving out anything big? I know you see more of the questions than I do.
Yes, there are actually a lot of technical questions coming in, so maybe we can address just a couple of them. One is regarding if somebody is a student in a country that is different from their country of origin, should they apply to the country where they are currently studying? Some of them do not actually speak the local language, or should they go ahead and apply in their country of origin? Another big question is, are transcripts mandatory? So I think you should address that as well. Let's start with those two, because we have a lot of questions to get to.
Okay, great. So yeah, I like these questions. Of course, there are lots of people based all around the world, and it's maybe not in line with your nationality or where you grew up or whatever. So I think really, please just use what works best for you in this case, and where you feel you have the best chance at getting in, right? If I was going to apply to an office where I didn't speak the local language, I've never been there, I'm not even sure I like the country, then probably I don't have a very good chance of getting in. So really think about that. That could be the region in which you're studying in. It could be the work authorization or the passport that you have. Only you can decide that. If you have any questions, please reach out to the local recruiter, and he or she will be able to help you figure that out a little bit better. And then the second question, Renat, please remind me, sorry.
Regarding transcripts, we're getting a lot of questions, if they are mandatory and from what years.
Yeah, exactly. Good one. So I think they are not required by every single office. So I would say at the absolute minimum, it's a cover letter and a resume. However, if you have your transcripts available, they don't need to be the official one signed by the head of the university. Just some indication of your grades is helpful. Then just submit them anyway. If you're unsure, if you go down to the apply section of the website and you click on the office, it will say additional requirements. If there are additional requirements, some of them only require a cover letter and CV. Then you can see if they require academic transcripts, both university and high school, or one or both. So all the information is on the website. Otherwise, please reach out to the local recruiter.
Great. And we also have a lot of questions coming in regarding how much work experience is or isn't necessary. Some have a few years work experience, some have none. So it would be great if you could just clarify that question.
Yeah, sure. Good one. So actually, this event is mainly aimed at undergrads, masters, and PhD. Of course, if you've had sort of under a year and a half of work experience, then this could be relevant for you as well. But I think that if you don't have any work experience or very minimal work experience, you will probably get the most out of this workshop, because we will be yeah, that's kind of going to be the aim of the keynotes and the case workshops and that kind of thing. We do have other events for experienced hire candidates, and that also differs by office and by region, but you can always have a look on our careers website. Renat, I will ask you to please put that in the chat as well, otherwise I'll send that link in the follow-up email. And then this is a really helpful website where you can filter by office, by undergrad, by experience hires, and see what event is available in your region for right now, or what event is coming up.
Great, I will be happy to share that. In the meantime, we have a couple of questions that came in for Teresa, actually, I think because of the very specific background. And I know you discussed it a little bit, but more questions came in. So could you please tell us a little bit more about how your specific scientific background plays a role in your day-to-day work? Are you automatically being asked to join cases that have just to do with the cases or the background that you studied, or is it more varied than just your educational background?
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, like I am mostly affiliated with the healthcare practice, but this is also something I do by choice because I feel comfortable here. I like it, but I'm also looking for future staffing. I'm also looking to go into different areas. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any issue with me going to other practices, because a colleague of mine, as I mentioned, he's an MD and he has not been in the healthcare practice at all so far. So I think this is very much possible.
Great, thank you. We have so many questions coming in. I will do my best to try and group them. Here's a good one. Hello, I would like to ask, what are the keynote speeches generally about?
Good one. Well, I don't want to give away any spoilers, and you should apply to the event to see for yourself. But I will say that we cover a very wide variety of topics, right? We cover the things that are, we only have a couple hours across 4 days, and there's lots of topics that BCG feels very passionate about, but we've tried to select a few just to give you a little bit of an idea. So sometimes we might have one on BCG's really bold net zero commitment. You can read up more about that online. We'll have somebody who's going to speak about that. We will also be doing a topic fair, which is always really helpful, because then you get to have small groups where you can be a part of multiple different topic fair topics on a whole variety of either it's a practice area or recruiting or whatever the topic might be. And then you get to ask your questions one-on-one. As the ladies mentioned, we also have a case workshop where you get to pretend that you're a consultant for a day. And we have some fun activities like a cooking class as well. So it really could be anything, but I don't want to give away too much right now.
Thanks, Clara. And we don't have much time left, but there are two questions that kind of go together, and I think it'll be great to hear from our panelists. The first is some tips and tricks for a great application. What do you think is the secret sauce to actually get into the program? And the second one is some tips and tricks on how to prepare for the cases and how to crack them. So maybe Catalina.
I can take the second one if you want, about the cases for the interviews. So what worked for me, I would say, was to first find a friend or a person you want to practice with. So you can like do the interviewer role and the interviewed one, and so it's better so you see the both sides. And I also like watch a lot of YouTube videos to see how an interview was, how the structure was. And I also studied a lot with Victor Chang. I don't know if you have heard about him. Yeah, he's pretty famous in the consulting industry. And yeah, so he has a really useful frameworks that could help you to guide yourself through the interview. So those are my tips. Well, at least those work for me.
I can take the first one regarding like the cover letter and even the interview for the Aspire workshop. So my tip will be that you, in both of them, give the like a really good story and like take time to think about the story that like fits exactly what you want to tell and will like shine your personality, and there will be something that you can really the interviewer or this someone who read this letter will feel really connect to what you are telling, and I think that honesty is one of the key factors to succeed in this journey.
Thank you both. I think we have time for maybe another question or two. So here's a good one that came in. I don't think our panelists could answer, but maybe Clara could shed some light on this. What is it like to be a woman with a family working at BCG?
That's a really good question. Actually, thanks for that. So yeah, I think I could answer this in many ways, right? BCG has a lot of different programs and ways of supporting employees. But I think the main thing to realize here at BCG is that it's a company that we don't sell products, right? We just have people. And I think that we've been in business a really long time. So this is something that I like to think BCG has kind of perfected over the years, right? You know, if we don't have the best and brightest and our employees don't feel supported and like they belong, then we don't really have a company, do we? So, you know, there's multiple different models and ways that BCG supports people, and not only with families, it could be really anything. But I would say the main approach that we take is that we try and focus on what we call a segment of one, right? So this basically means that we don't say, if you have a family, you probably need X, Y, Z, right? That's just not going to work. We've got over 22,000 employees globally, right? So we can't make blanket solutions. So it's really based on what works in your office, in your region, for you personally. I know that, and I'll give my experience of the Johannesburg office and the Amsterdam office and some other offices that I've been lucky enough to work in. But for BCGs who have families, one of my colleagues had 2 children, and she wanted to actually stay in Johannesburg and not be put on travel cases just while her kids were young, or for the first couple of years when they were born, right? So then she just spoke to one of the partners and staffing and said, listen, I think it actually works better for me if I'm not staffed on travel cases. And that's what worked for her. She came up with a solution, and that's what happened. And after a while, she said, actually, it suits me now to travel only 20% of my time. And then we reassessed, right? So I think it's really difficult to say, oh, for families, for this type of person, we do X, Y, Z, because that's not really our approach. We really try and focus on the individual and what works for you specifically. I hope that kind of answered the question. But yeah, I would say, at least in my personal experience, I don't have children, but I know that when I have had a specific requirement or need, I've just mentioned this specifically to my manager, and we've come up with something, sometimes something very creative that actually wasn't previously possible. And because I asked, then, well, we work on it and it becomes possible.
Thank you, Clara. And I'll just add a little note to that. I am a mother working at BCG, although I'm not on the consulting staff, but there are a lot of flexible programs. So it is definitely something that is doable within the company. I think we're kind of over time, but maybe one last question that I think is super relevant right before we wrap it up. Wanted to ask how much choice junior consultants get over the cases they work on. So maybe one of our panelists, Teresa, could you answer this one?
So staffing is a three-way process, right? So it's between you, it's between the person who is staffing, and it's between staffing. So usually all these three people have to kind of get up to an agreement. And of course, your preferences and what you want to do will be taken into account. So for me, actually, I was usually staffed because I had an agreement with the person staffing. We just, they would give me a call and we would talk about the project, and then I would say, okay, I'm interested in that. And they'll be like, okay, we want to actually staff you for the project. So for me, it has always worked out so far. And I think it's really important here to also be proactive about communicating what you want and what is important to you, and they will they will try to accommodate for your preference and your wishes. So as I said, I mean, I've only been at BCG since March, and so this question has not really popped up for me, because for me everything kind of fell into place ever since I started. And I think in general, I think it's just, I guess sometimes you will most of the times you will get what you want, and then sometimes you will get something where you think, okay, maybe that's not super interesting, but maybe on the case you'll notice, okay, actually this is pretty cool. So I think it's also being a bit open about, what the projects are like, because sometimes you may discover something that you're interested in after all. Because I mean, the people who get hired are usually very curious people. So I think if you're the type of person, I think you definitely will find something cool to dig into, regardless of what it is. But yeah, in principle, I think your preference would definitely be, regarded in the staffing process, and you do get a say as well.
Yeah,
I hope that answered the question. I think it was a bit roundabout.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa. I know that we're over time, but I just want to address a really final question just before we wrap up, because I see it's come through a few times. People are saying, how many people get selected to Aspire every year? In previous years, we've had between 85 and about 100 candidates attending. Of course, not everybody who applies is going to get a position. That's not to say that you can't get accepted to other events. Just if you get declined from Aspire, this does not in any way impact your likelihood of getting accepted to another event or a full-time or a summer position. So keep that in mind. Having said that, please don't let that stop you, right? I can guarantee you that you will not get selected for Aspire if you don't apply. So please keep that in mind. And we hope to review all of your applications, and really looking forward to you being a part of the BCG community, whether that means that you're a BCGer or you just engage with us online. So thanks everyone for joining, and please reach out to your local recruiters if you have office-specific questions.